Have you ever wanted to build a new workflow and set anything up in HubSpot, but have no idea what it's actually connected to? Be it upstream, downstream, other enrollments, maybe a property change? That's what we're about to discuss today. So stay tuned. All right, so we are back in Howley, and under the floating sidebar here is where we have added the planned workflow functionality. So I have my canvas here, and if I simply click on add a planned workflow, it gives me this brand new node that can be manipulated and changed. For the purposes of today's demo, I'm actually going to move it next to my contact workflows here because I want to create a contact workflow that is planned. So when I click on this workflow, it opens up the side menu here that allows me to change the name of it, change the object type, selecting contact today, and allows me to add enrollment and action triggers. What this then shows is in a similar way in which Howley shows you how every workflow is connected by clicking on them, the planned workflow will allow you to set up a draft workflow that will create brand new lines and connections to the workflows that are associated with the actions. So if I click on the new planned workflow and I click on enrollment for this demonstration, let's say contact submits a form. All of these enrollment triggers that you see from the planned workflow functionality are all contextual and based on what you have in your HubSpot portal. So there's nothing new here that you wouldn't see in your current HubSpot portal, which makes it really easy to figure out if I have a new planned workflow, how do they enroll and what are the actions and how is everything connected? So if I go then to actions and I add some actions here, I can say, well, this one is pretty easy. We can say enroll in another workflow and then select one of the workflows that we have on our map. As we can see, okay, now the line is drawn, the connection line, because the action is that it enrolls in another workflow. We can see this connection. But if you are a HubSpot admin or you're a consultant and you're looking at this and you want to set up perhaps a new lifecycle workflow that triggers when a lifecycle stage is set to something, this is where the planned workflow feature becomes really helpful. So under actions, I can actually also select set a property. And then the property that I select could then be, let me move this out of the way here, could be something like lifecycle stage. So if I search for lifecycle stage under the properties, we get all of the properties that HubSpot already includes. And of course, custom ones that you have. But in this case, we're going to select lifecycle stage. And as you can see, there's already a few different lines being drawn to various workflows. And this is because there's a lot of lifecycle stage triggers in my demo portal here. But to narrow it down, I actually want to select, call it opportunity. So once I've selected my lifecycle stage as opportunity, what the planned workflow does is it creates a connection to this workflow here called opportunity workflow test. And if I click in on that, so you can see there's actually another connection there. That's okay. We'll move that out of the way. If I click on opportunity workflow test, in my sidebar here, we can see that the enrollment is when lifecycle stage is set to any of opportunity. And just to confirm that this is correct, I'm going to click in the actual HubSpot portal here and under the workflow, and I can see that, okay, that is the trigger enrollment for contacts is when lifecycle stage is any of opportunity. So what that means for me as a consultant is that I'm looking at this and I go, okay, I want to have a new workflow set up that triggers when or it sets the property that is lifecycle stage being opportunity. So perhaps this is a deal workflow or a contact workflow where a deal has come through or it's in agreement with client. And I want to set the property stage on the contact as opportunity. What this means is that, okay, I can certainly do that. But the downstream impact of me doing this is that this will enroll into this workflow here called opportunity workflow test, where we'll send an email campaign. And so I can go back in HubSpot here and I can see, is this what I want to happen? Or will this cause any downstream impact that I wouldn't want to happen at all? And so this is an opportunity to review the workflow, turn it off as needed. And in a similar vein, we can see that this SQL to opportunity workflow actually already exists. So when a last meeting is booked, then the lifecycle stage is set to opportunity. And so perhaps this planned workflow isn't necessary to begin with, but this is your, as a consultant or an agency or an admin, this is your chance to review before setting up any new workflows. In a similar vein, we could also, it doesn't have to be, setting the property lifecycle stage. It could also be they're added to a list, for example, and then you would type in the list name. We also have a task being created. What is the label there? So that is again, dependent on what is in your portal that you're able to see these things. Same thing with sending an email. Type in the email name, and then it will create those connections for you. So the planned workflow functionality is really set up as a way in which you not only can audit your upcoming workflows, but you can also see what is the downstream impact of me setting up a brand new workflow in my HubSpot portal. When I'm done with this, I don't need it anymore. I simply delete the planned workflow and I can go ahead and reset my canvas back to normal to see all of my HubSpot workflows as nodes.